The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to our webinar, Maintaining Quality and Value While Moving Fast in Product Development, featuring our speaker, Xcentric CEO Michael Rynerson. My name is Mark Strobel and I'm the Vice President of Marketing here at Xcentric. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. You can use the questions field on your screen to ask questions during the presentation, and we will address those at the end of the webinar. We encourage you also to follow Xcentric Mold and Engineering on LinkedIn so that you can stay up to date on our latest blog topics and webinar schedules. We're excited to have our CEO join us today. Mike, take it away.
Thank you, Mark. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Mike Rynerson. We'll spend about 30 minutes today on a slightly different topic than we normally do for our webinars. Usually they're highly technical, focused on the details of injection molding or CNC machining. And today I thought it'd be interesting for us to take it one level higher and talk about organizational aspects of what it takes for us to maintain quality and value while moving fast. We've had a number of clients visit us with that specifically in mind. How does Xcentric do this? And so we thought it'd be interesting for all of you to learn a little bit more about how we operate, who we are as a team, how we think, and where we're headed as an organization. So for the next roughly 30 minutes, I'll go over some of these topics, spend a little bit more time with the questions at the end, should you have any, and I hope we all get some good value out of this conversation. So, moving forward, I'll give you a brief overview of Xcentric, talk about the factors that drive success, about team, customer-centric culture, excellent systems, infrastructure, and proven processes. All of these things fit together to help us achieve our objectives. First, a little bit about me. I've been in manufacturing, advanced manufacturing in particular, for the last 20-ish years, mostly around advanced manufacturing in the form of additive production. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. I was one of the co-founders of an organization that today is called X1 that does industrial 3D printing for making, of all things, injection molds in the early days, as well as sand casting molds and a number of other direct metal components. After that, I went off largely to Europe to help develop dental CAD/CAM technologies, the same concepts around 3D printing, CNC machining, 3D scanning, CAD/CAM design, but focused on dentistry. And ultimately, I led an organization of about 600 people worldwide with plants around the world manufacturing customized dental prosthetics in the millions per year. I spent about half of my career outside of the US. I'm from Florida originally. As you can see in the upper right, I'm from a nice place on the west coast of Florida called Bradenton or Anna Maria Island. And I'll be enjoying that in a couple of weeks over the holidays. I'm a little bit overeducated. I've spent many, many years in various universities around the world learning about manufacturing, 3D printing, and I happen to have a second major in German. And as I mentioned, I was born in Florida and I spent about half of my life moving around as well. So I've lived in 14 cities around the world in different places doing different things. So enough about me. Let's move on with the topic at hand. Xcentric is a really interesting company, mostly about the people that we have involved here that are all experts in their fields, bringing concepts together around injection molding, CNC machining, and 3D printing. We use the latest technologies that were developed partially in-house, and I'll talk a lot about those today as we move forward. But what you see in the image here is the concept of combining people, technology, and systems to create great results. And I'll explain how that is in more detail now. So our vision is to be one of America's premier providers of injection molding, CNC machining, and additive manufacturing, serving a huge range of industries. Our mission is to enable our customers to make the world a better place as quickly as possible. And this concept of enabling our customers is core to everything I'll talk about today. It's not that we're a manufacturer of plastic parts, it's that we're enabling our customers to do some exciting things. So for example, we help clients make new and exciting medical devices and medical equipment that will save lives. We're helping improve safety and comfort of medical devices for patients and clinicians. We're making next generation transport more efficient, safer, faster, all of those things. We're helping clients increase the performance of their industrial equipment. And finally, we're working with a lot of entrepreneurs to bring their ideas to market. This idea that we're helping people and helping organizations do new things and exciting things quickly is what's driving us to do a better job every day. So what does it take to really do that? And as I mentioned, yes, we manufacture components, we manufacture injection molding tools, injection molded parts, and components that come together for a final product. But at the end of the day, we are involved in our customers' go-to-market strategies. We're involved in the process of bringing their products to market end to end. And historically speaking, we've been involved in a relatively narrow range of what you see on the screen here, going from ideation to design, virtual prototyping, physical prototyping, pre-production, validation, verification, and production. Almost every company has some version of this process for bringing their products to market. Some are more complex, some have more steps, some have fewer, some are informal, some are super formal. And it's for us to understand this particular cycle for every one of our clients and adapt as necessary to their needs to see that we're providing the right service at the right time and the right quality. And so in the last year, we've really been on a mission to change how we operate around this cycle. So in the past, as I mentioned, we were almost predominantly focused on reacting to our clients' needs to solve a particular manufacturing problem for one part or the other of this cycle. Now we're engaged much more deeply and usually in many more locations along this process so that we understand our clients, we understand their particular needs as a client and the particular needs of a project itself and the product that is being developed out of that project. Why is all of that important? Well, the more we know, the more we understand, the more that we can dive into the topic with our clients, the better we will be at solving the problem that's related to us and help them think about the manufacturing aspects earlier on, preferably. So the earlier we're involved to the left of the screen into the ideation design and the virtual prototyping side of the process, the more we can start to influence and start to help think along about what will be required later on when they're going through physical prototyping, pre-production, validation, and final production. We may help optimize designs for manufacturability. We may help avoid additional costs downstream. We may help with a selection of a material. We may even have contacts in our industry that may be of use to our clients that they were unaware of, other processes, other companies that know something that might be useful for the program. We try to bring all of this together the more deeply we're involved in a program. And so I'll talk a little bit more about this cycle as we go together today, where we're involved, what we're doing, and how we execute on this to see that we're doing it quickly and consistently, time and again for all of our clients, regardless of the application and industry. So a little bit about the company. We've been in business for over 23 years. The founders were both mold makers by trade. Their father was a mold maker, and they looked at the injection molding business very carefully here in the Detroit area, and they realized that there were some things that were fundamentally difficult about manufacturing molds and manufacturing injection molded parts that could be optimized. So they took a step back and started a new company, now called Xcentric, that optimizes much of that production cycle. Regardless of which step, they have found an optimization that was able to move the process forward quickly, efficiently, and with quality. Over this 23-year history, we've built upon that knowledge, built upon the systems that were created by the founders, and now we've brought together a new executive team to take the organization to the next level, building this all into a world-class organization with the latest equipment, the latest systems, multiple facilities, and a reach across industries and geographies. So in these facilities, we manufacture all of our injection molds ourselves. We have end-to-end processes. We've done over 10,000 molds over the years. That number's climbing rapidly. We work with thousands of materials on thousands and thousands of applications. So that breadth of understanding across markets is very interesting for us, and it allows us to leverage what we learn to help every one of our clients move forward even faster than the project before. So we serve a number of different industries, as I mentioned, aerospace, automotive, consumer, defense, industrial, medical, and sub-industries within those. A bit of a fact, even though we're based in Detroit, we have a relatively small portion of our business in automotive. That being said, we can leverage the huge resources in the Detroit area for additional partnerships, access to technology, access to material science, access to the leading suppliers of technology that help us provide world-class services that might not be available had we been located elsewhere. That makes this a very dynamic area and a very dynamic industry. We've learned quite a lot from each of these different areas. All of them have their own requirements. As you can imagine, medical device or medical equipment is totally different than the requirements of a defense contractor and those that are developing components for an aircraft, for example. So we have to be very adaptable. And that's one of our hallmarks, is working with our clients to find solutions that meet their particular need and their particular industry. So when we look at our services, predominantly injection molding, CNC machining, and additive manufacturing, and other processes related to these. When we focus on injection molding, for example, we do prototype injection molding, low to mid volume production, in-house mold design and production, simple to very complex projects, and we really focus on the customer's needs. So what does that mean? We're often asked, do we force our clients to work to our process rather than the other way around? Again, this is where it's very important for us to engage with a client about their project as early as possible so that we can discuss design for manufacturability while there's still flexibility. That being said, if there's a particular feature, functionality, material, concept that the client is interested in, we will do our utmost to make that happen within the constraints of the injection molding technology, for example. CNC machining, the same. We offer a wide range of materials, a wide range of capabilities. And if we don't have a particular capability in-house, as I mentioned, we have access to leading suppliers that can support us in these activities. This is also true of additive manufacturing. As we all know, there's been an explosion in the number of different techniques and technologies and materials that are available via additive manufacturing. And of course, because of my background, we are on top of that and looking always to add new partners and new capabilities to support our activities and our clients in additive. Injection molding services, again, we work on simple to complex components. We do basically anything that's normally injection molded. I don't want to spend too much time going into what we do. This is not a sales pitch in this regard. It's more about the concept of being flexible and supporting our customers. So if the client has something in mind, we generally speaking will find a way to move forward with that project. So when we talk about while moving fast, the title of the presentation today, what does that even mean? So this image gives you a sense of our standard delivery time frame. So the top sequence is our standard quoted delivery for a normal injection mold with normal capabilities that we would do day in and day out. So project review and quoting, at the time that we have all the data and a purchase order, we start our process, mold design, simulation, manufacture, molding, and quality control, and then shipping. That process, typically speaking, takes 13 days. Yes, there are some examples of very large, very complex molds where we would quote a longer time frame, but our standard delivery is 13 days of injection molded parts on our shipping dock, ready to go back to the client. That's our standard. Under certain circumstances, for certain types of projects, we will even accept shorter deliveries, expedite level 1, expedite level 2, all the way down to 5 days from receipt of data and the purchase order to the time that those components are on the shipping dock. Now, of course, these are limited volumes for first shots. Higher volumes would be produced after that, and that takes the normal time to produce, depending on the cycle time of that particular product. So when I stepped back and when I joined the organization, taking a look at this delivery time, I was honestly shocked that the company consistently was able to do this. And when I visited the organization the first time, roughly a year ago, I was immediately clear why we were able to do this. It's not that we have some type of magic equipment that nobody else in the world has. It's that we consistently execute with a great team, with great processes, and world-class capabilities over and over again. That's why we're able to achieve this. And I'll talk about this in much more detail in just a moment. So when it comes to the execution, I mentioned it just a second ago, it really starts off with team, team, team. Our team is really our differentiator in why we're able to do this consistently, quickly, and with high quality. So you see a number of individuals from around our organization doing different tasks. We have designers. We have the upper left image, our process experts at the presses, providing first shot and guidance for a new product, dialing in the process to see that we have the best possible parameters before it goes to production. We obviously are because we're manufacturing our own tooling, we have highly skilled tradesmen doing the final mold design, final mold finishing, texturing, assembly of the molds. And then of course, the injection molding team is on the floor day in and day out, seeing that we have the best possible quality product going to our clients. This is all about ongoing training. It's all about continuous improvement mindset. It's all about customer focused mindset. That's what allows us to execute. Without this, it doesn't matter what your equipment is. It doesn't matter what your process is. You have to have an excellent team that you're invested in. So this is a little bit of an MBA approach to things, but I thought it'd be interesting for you to see how we think about this. Company performance is built up largely about teams, first of all. So the proportion of this image that's dominated by team is shown on the right. And of course, you have to have the appropriate assets and resources and the strategy and tactics to tie it all together to support a balanced performance for an organization. The executive team, which I lead, our job is to support everybody else and to see if they have these resources and they have the right strategy and help guide the organization in the right direction. But it's largely about the preparation, hence the relative size of those blocks of the individuals to do their jobs. Preparation is over their entire career, bringing themselves up to a certain level, and then for us to help them prepare to be doing their jobs even better, and then performing as individuals and ultimately as teams and ultimately as an organization. So we focus a lot on this internally. We have daily meetings with all of the managers in the organization, talking about performance, going over the numbers and understanding what it takes to execute, and talking about many of your projects in quite some detail at the executive and management level so that we understand how we can improve from day to day. A lot of this between the teams has to do with communication, driving support, which ultimately drives trust, which feeds on this until we have better and better organizational unity. So how do I define and how do we define high performance team? I won't read all this to you, but essentially it's about being committed, motivated, accountable. Everybody is focused on the success of the team and the organization and the client. Communication is key to all of this when you're moving fast. And ultimately, we all need to know the rules of the game. What are we trying to do for the client to see that we're succeeding, which stems from communication, which stems from being committed to the client's success. We talk about these things as an organization because it matters. It really matters to see that we understand as a group what high performance is and that we continue to raise our game so that we're able to execute quickly with quality. Related to this and central actually to all of this is customer experience. So recently we launched a program called ACE, or Amazing Customer Experience, that permeates our organization end to end. And it's all about assuring that we provide the best possible experience at every touch point throughout our relationship with a client. And we are always learning here. We're always striving to do more. I'm sure that we've fallen short in some instances. We've certainly fallen short a few times since I've been here, maybe me personally. But we are cognizant of this point and we are working on it on a daily basis. And it's extremely important to us and our philosophy as an organization. And we know that when you look at all the different opportunities to interact with a client, it's not just about the central activity of manufacturing components, it's about all the touch points, whether it's with Mark's team on the marketing side, following up with customer support, all of our advertising, everything that we do that has a touch point with you or one of our other clients is important to us, and seeing that we do the best possible job. And as we move forward, we want to be so convenient and so trustworthy as an organization because of this that will continue to earn your business over time. So that's a bit about team and our mindset. So let's move on to the systems and infrastructure. One of the attributes of the organization that the founders recognized is that in a traditional mold making organization, in a molding organization, there are a lot of moving pieces in a typical project end to end. And a normal ERP system, or let's say a generic ERP system, is not able to manage that complex process as streamlined as it should be for this specific application. So they developed, and we continue to develop and invest heavily in a proprietary system that runs our organization from end to end. This is one of the major reasons we're able to stay on top of so many simultaneous high speed, high complexity projects. So quite literally, from the moment that a client submits 3D CAD data to us and we begin the quotation process, we are already engaged in our expert system. So that allows us to preemptively and predictively look forward through every step of our manufacturing process and understand, can we manufacture this? Can we manufacture it on time? Can we manufacture it to the client's needs? Can we hold the tolerance that the client is after? Is this in the size range of our milling equipment, EDM equipment, molding equipment, so that we can bring this project together? This system is touching every point in our entire organization. So from that point of quotation, we know that we're able to execute. Already, that is a huge benefit for us. So we're not taking on jobs, largely speaking, that we should not be able to execute quickly and efficiently. And if there is a question based on that, then it's incumbent upon our sales engineers to have that discussion with the client early on. Where there's risks to timeline, risks to capability, we will have that discussion as early as possible. Sometimes things do slip through and we have to react. And again, having a great system that has all this information available to it at the right place at the right time allows us to consistently not only execute on those projects that flow smoothly, and in the case where we have a challenge, that we're able to react and recover as fast as possible. So we're running hundreds and hundreds of simultaneous mold development and molding projects at the same time in our two plants. So if you noticed in the video earlier, and we'll maybe show a little bit more later, we have an extremely busy shop floor, an extremely busy design department for most injection molders. Most injection molding plants, I don't mean to generalize too much, but generally speaking, relatively automated, relatively low human interaction over a typical day. In our case, huge amount of action, huge amount of turnover from one press to the other, one project to the other, one mill to the other, to manage all these projects. And that's only possible when you have a fantastic system that's keeping it all straight. So as I mentioned, we have this proprietary system we call XMVM. We have a number of injection molding systems in-house and CNC mills and EDM machines. We have two fully kitted out benching departments. Benching means those that finish the molds and apply texture to the mold. And if there's capability that we need that is not on the list, we go get it in the neighborhood, so to speak. As I mentioned, Detroit is fantastic for this. So this image shows you a little bit of a typical day in one area of our molding department. And as you can see, constant activity at the presses, constant movement between the teams, loading and unloading product, doing QA, putting in new molds, exchanging molds, on and on and on. So we're an extremely busy shop in terms of the level of activity and the level of human interaction and involvement to see that our projects go off efficiently. On top of that, you may notice in some of the images, you'll see computer screens at every station. Those screens are tied into our expert system that are giving input based on the parameters that should be used for the process and feeding that information back to the expert system so that we learn from one project to the next. So next, it comes to process optimization and streamlining. So I happen to be a Formula One fan, and one of the more interesting designers from years past was a gentleman named Colin Chapman. And one of his most famous lines is simplify and add lightness, meaning basically anything that is not necessary for going fast, holding the wheels where they need to be, holding the driver safely in the car, take it off. And basically, if you had to distill our philosophy around our processes, this is how we act. So the founders and the team continue to look at what we've done in the organization from an injection molding or machining perspective and streamline every aspect of the process. That starts with communication. So if you don't know exactly what the client is after with their particular project at that particular part of the timeline, you can't streamline anything downstream from that. So we start there. We assure that we understand the project, what the objectives are, how success is defined for that client and that project. It may be two different definitions of success from one project to the next. Align on that, make sure we're clear, and then we go fast. Secondly, we accelerate our decisions and actions. So throughout our process, we've done everything we can to help the team members have the fewest number of different decision points and different action points in order to execute producing a mold and molding a component as fast as possible. So that doesn't mean that we're cutting corners. This is a very, very important point. We don't cut corners, we just remove extraneous steps, extraneous motion that isn't directly on the critical path for executing for our particular client's project. And finally, we want to generate, manage, and use knowledge. So as I mentioned, our expert system is tied into everything we're doing. We've done tens of thousands of projects over the years. We learn from those projects, feed that information in our expert system, and then build on that from one project to the next so that our techs, for example, in the molding department, always start with the latest and best information about how to process that project. If we learn something new during processing, let's say the cycle time needs to be adjusted by 5 seconds for a better fill, then that information goes back in the system and we can learn from that. Why is that important? Some of our clients, after their prototyping projects, will come back to us and ask us to run 20,000 more parts. Well, we need to have that information from the initial trials, feed that in, optimize the process, quote out the production run, and off we go. So again, it's about communication, accelerating decisions and actions, and then manage knowledge. All those things together help streamline our process end to end. So when we look at the process, wow, there's a lot going on here. A lot of moving pieces, a lot of steps, a lot of communication points, a lot of documents, on and on. So as I mentioned, we don't cut corners. We have not skipped some step in the traditional mold making process. We do everything that's normally done to produce a mold. But when we look at simplifying, we start again with the product development cycle. So let's say this particular client is after a pre-production prototype. They need 100 parts to go off to V&V testing for a medical device. They have a specific set of requirements that have to be met in order for that to be done. Then we will line ourselves up to execute on that. That information will go into our system and will then inform what we're doing in the process shown at the bottom. So we may flag a particular product or project a different way depending on what the customer's needs are. So for example, we may have a consumer product project where the aesthetics of the surface is extremely important, and so we will spend more effort on that particular project based on their instructions to put a higher finish, usually that costs more, on the surface of the tool and we will package the components in a certain way. The same client may come back a week later and say they have an internal product, surface finish is not important, we don't need that level of polish on the tool. That saves us a bit of time, we move faster, but it's all about communicating and understanding each project by project to have the right outcome. When it comes to accelerating decisions and actions, so for example, if we again look at this unified system end to end, all the information is always there throughout both of our facilities for management and all of the team members on the floor. We look at design optimizations and macros, for example. So if we look into the design step, we typically speaking are finished with a relatively straightforward mold design in less than a day, in some cases just a few hours. The way that's possible is we use a number of macros that are pre-programmed into our design systems that take into consideration exactly what we can manufacture and exactly what we can mold downstream. So that just saves them time. They don't have to think up new components. They don't have to design a new component completely custom every project. They go straight to what they need. They pull it from a toolbox. It's already proven to have worked hundreds and hundreds of times in the past. Use that design element and move on. Considering the number of products we do, that saves an enormous amount of time over a year. And we pass on those time savings in terms of super fast deliveries to our clients. Secondly, on the mold manufacturing, after the design is complete, it goes down to the CNC department. Their CAM experts convert the design into machine instructions to CNC machine the molds. Same thing here. We have macros that we've developed over time that allow us to go very quickly, allow us to have the best possible outcome in terms of quality of surface finish, balanced against the speed of delivery of the mold components to the final steps. And that, again, saves us time. We're building on every project to see that we're better than the time before. And all of that goes into the expert system. Integrated quality controls means we look at every step where it makes sense to have a quality check depending on the application and the requirements of the client. Some clients have standard tolerances, and we hold that all the way through. Some clients ask that a specific feature be measured individually and have a specific report for that feature. We'll do that too. We've even sent products out for CT scanning for certain clients to check for internal integrity of the components. If that's required, there's of course a charge for such services, but we will do that as well. We are extremely flexible when it comes to meeting our clients' quality requirements. Then finally, generate, manage, and use the knowledge. Each of these steps, so you see the red dots throughout, those are just to give you an indication that the expert system is tied in there and we're using information and putting in information at those steps, whether it's a scan of a physical document or 3D data, 3D scans, on and on. We bring all of that information together and use it for our purposes. We also look at past project performance, of course. We bring the teams together. We have debriefs on larger projects to see where we can learn. We have quarterly reviews of all of our operations to see how we can make all of this more efficient. And we're constantly looking at opportunities to do more, faster, and maintain the quality that we promise to our clients. The last point there, real-time data visualization. This is also important. It doesn't necessarily help much if you have all this great data if you can't see what it's doing and where it is. And so we've implemented a number of different means for showing what we're doing at the right level of resolution for the right role across the organization, whether that's for myself all the way across the organization to people on the shop floor and each of the department areas to see that what we're doing at that moment is the right thing and that's on target, whether it's from a delivery standpoint or it's from a quality standpoint. Of course, all of this is constantly being improved. We will never be finished with this. We will always be working to make it better. Even in the organization I was running in Switzerland, you can imagine how precise the Swiss are. This was about $1.5 billion organization. We had every possible resource, and we were still working on improving all of these things. This never ends, and we have that mentality here. So, the key takeaways for today. we're really focused on supporting all of your missions. It's about what you're trying to accomplish, not just about a plastic part. It's about what this part becomes later on. Is it helping save a life? Is it helping making a car more efficient? Is it helping somebody enjoy their life more in some way? We're focused on that and seeing that you succeed as an organization and that we play an important role there. We try to tailor our services to see that they meet exactly what you're after, and we strive to do better every day. Then finally, how is it that we do all this? Again, it's about our team. It's about our customer-centric culture and these systems and processes that we built over the last 23 years to execute consistently to your needs. So with that, thank you very much. Those are my comments for today. I'd be happy to take any questions, should there be any.
Yeah, we have a few. So before we get into those, just a reminder, please, if you have questions, enter those into the questions panel that you see there in the webinar, and we'll address those. Mike, the first one that comes to us asks about, do customers have to modify their designs to accommodate our processes?
That's a great question. So no, generally speaking, they don't have to. This comes back to having a dialogue with the client about their project, about the technical requirements, the functional requirements of what we're working on for the client. So there may be instances where we point out optimizations that would help the injection molding process or help the machining process to be more efficient or perhaps reduce costs for the client's benefit. That being said, if there are things that the client absolutely has to have and they need for the functionality of the product, then we will do our best to achieve that. There may be some instances where we are very frank in saying we're not sure that we can achieve that based on technical limitations of the overall injection molding process. We want to have that conversation up front. If we're really not sure that it's possible, there are some cases where we'll just say we're not the right partner for that. It's more important for us to be as clear and aligned as possible at the beginning of projects so that we have a high degree of success with our clients. But again, to answer the question directly, generally speaking, we do everything we can to accommodate our clients' needs. And if we have to have a discussion about a particular feature, then we will do that.
The next question is about when clients should get Xcentric involved, and they specifically ask you, with our shortened cycle time, does that mean that they can wait longer to involve us?
Mm-hmm. So that's great. Generally speaking, we'd love it if we're involved earlier. We realize that in some instances, that's not going to happen, and we rely on being very fast and very adaptive in order to handle a particular client's needs. That being said, one of the benefits of having a partner like Xcentric is that the design team at our client can continue to work on the product development as long as possible before the trigger is pulled to go from the virtual world into the real world via our processes. So by being fast, we offer extra time in development and optimization of the design before you go to manufacturing. And this is a huge help. And I come out of the world of doing product development, as you saw earlier on in the presentation, all those neat medical devices and 3D printing. I know how it is. If I had another month to wait to optimize my design before I committed to hard tooling or to prototype tooling, that was great because I was always going to learn something additionally in that period of time. So yes, we encourage our clients to work with us as early as they can. They can use that extra time that we offer due to our speed to continue to refine their developments. And we're happy to support in any way possible.
The next question is this development time considering the checking fixtures fabrication?
So a good question. It depends on the application. So naturally, if there's something that's required that's additional to our process, then we may have to do some additional work and quote that out separately. So some things that are outside of our normal flow that might take extra time, and of course there may be extra cost involved in that.
Okay. Next question. It seems Xcentric's mostly focused on prototypes. Can you take on production jobs and what volumes?
Great question. So we really have a spectrum of clients that come to us for a number of applications and a number of reasons. Very often, we're involved during the pre-prototyping, the pre-production validation, and now clients are seeing that because their production cycles are so short, it doesn't make sense to go on to hard tooling, and they stay with us for their full production as well. So the efficiencies that are gained there are enormous. They're not having to re-educate a second molding house or a second mold maker to manufacture a second set of higher volume tools, because we're manufacturing in the hundreds of thousands of components a year for some of our clients. If a client needs to go beyond that, we will also go to hard tooling. So I think it's very important to understand, yes, predominantly we have been involved in the very fast turn tooling and very fast production cycles, but we will stay supportive of a client's project all the way into production. This being said, we do not make closures and caps and things like this in the tens of millions per year or per day in the case of some of these enormous production houses. So that's not our business either. So we really are focused on where we can add value from the prototyping, pre-production, and production when it makes sense. And if it's a higher volume project that's beyond our capability, naturally we'll help our clients find the next step.
I don't see any other questions coming in, so we want to thank you all for joining us today. Oh, we do have a couple more that just popped in. First question is, how competitive are you versus Chinese companies?
Interesting. So as we all know, the Chinese organizations are doing some really great work. They have clever people, great equipment, fast timelines. Where we really excel is in the project support and collaboration with our clients on their project and remain time and cost competitive. So you can imagine just going back and forth across the Pacific is certainly going to add some time to those projects. But in our case, the fact that we are a trusted partner to most of our clients in terms of helping their products come to market, this is a service that, generally speaking, we're head and shoulders above some of the overseas suppliers. This is a huge part of competitiveness. Related to that, we've seen some companies that have tried to skip, let's say, prototype tooling or pre-production tooling and go straight to production tooling in China. That works sometimes, but not always. And if it doesn't work, it really doesn't work. And so we've seen some of those projects come back to the US and to us specifically, where we can be a tighter collaborator to help those clients bring their product to market efficiently, get all of the issues worked out with molding before they go on to overseas production if necessary. There's another question here. Have we done any work with toys or game components? Yes, we have. I obviously can't say what or for whom, but yes, we have. And we'd love to look at applications. If you have something in mind, please contact us, and we'd be happy to get one of our engineers involved in the project.
And Mike, I don't see any other questions that have popped up. And if you have any, go ahead and enter those. If you think of some after the webinar is completed, you can send those questions to us at info@xcentricmold.com. We'd like to thank you for joining us today. Be sure again to follow us on LinkedIn so you can keep up to date with things going on here. And have a great day and a wonderful holiday season.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.